This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Jeff Malanoff, and with me is my partner in crime, Mark Souza. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well, all things considered. Been dealing with some unfortunate fire situations in California, but so I kind of know some people who have been affected personally, so it is a little tough, but sports are the getaway. They're the way to get away from, the stresses and struggles of life. So, you know what? I'm doing good. I'm healthy. Yeah. I'm ready to go.
Our thoughts and prayers to the victims of the fire, too. There are some confirmed deaths. And everyone that's lost their homes, we're here for you. Our love and support's here for you.
Yep.
So we're going to move on to this. Like you said, sports is a way to get your mind off things. So let's go to football. We had a very interesting week in the NFL. We'll start with Sunday Night Football. How's that? The Cowboys leaped over the Eagles. See what I did there?
I do.
27-20.
Yes.
Ezekiel Elliott had a game of a lifetime. 19 attempts, 151 yards, and a touchdown. Really show in his leap over that safety that really was not really thinking. It looked like he was kind of frozen the entire time. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is that was the highlight of the game. If he scored on that play, that would have been probably one of the highlights of the year. But unfortunately, he kind of tripped because he jumped 3-4 feet in the air, it looked like.
Yeah,
with pads.
I think at least 4, yeah.
Yeah. And there were a lot of, honestly, this game was all about Ezekiel Elliott. They just rode him until he was exhausted. So he was the key focal point in that win, no doubt about it. He was just run the ball. And he just had some outbursts. Like, he averaged 7.9 yards a carry, but he was, running, there was some 10-yard outbursts. Then there was, this 12-yard run. Then there was a big 35-yard run. Then there was this, and he lost a fumble, granted, but that wasn't that, he got a ball back. It wasn't that big of a deal. But bottom line is, he played terrific.
Yeah, I liked I liked what I saw with the Cowboys yesterday in terms of how they got Elliott the ball in space. Over the course of the last couple of games, I thought their offense was just very vanilla. They weren't finding ways to get Ezekiel Elliott the ball where he could be successful, but they mixed it up yesterday. They got
love to do that screen pass to him, don't they?
Mm-hmm. They got him some runs outside, and yes, you talked about how he had a great running game. Well, he also had 6 receptions, which tied for the Cowboys in their lead with Amari Cooper, who also had 6. But he had 36 yards, 6 catches, and he scored a touchdown off a pass. So.
Yeah, like I said, the reason it's only so small amount of yardage is a lot of screen passes and check down passes to him. But if he's on the hot hand, why not try to throw him the ball? Even though if you have some guys downfield, why not? Why force it into coverage? Prescott was smart in giving it to Ezekiel Elliott on the check down. And making
absolutely.
sure, and he had one little long run that got him a first down. He also had a 13-yard run that got him a first down. So it wasn't all 2-3 yard games. He did average 6 yards a catch, but again, it was mainly just those small pass plays. Mm-hmm. But man, the defending Super Bowl champions Philadelphia Eagles, really struggled, especially in the running game.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not able to run the ball effectively. It seems like. I know they finished with 4.4 yards per carry, but really, I think 2/3 to 3/4 of their runs were 3 yards or less. They weren't getting chunk plays. I mean, you look at Elliott on the other side, and he was ripping off, like you mentioned, 10 yards, 12, 35, here and there. It was big play, moving the chains, and things like that, whereas with the Eagles, it was more of a struggle. I mean, Josh Adams...
Except for Zach Ertz, of course.
Yeah, I mean, but running the ball is what I was saying. So, Adams, He finishes with 6.7 yards per carry. He had a couple decent runs.
That 129-yard run. That's the reason it was so high.
You take away that run, and you're looking at 2 yards a pop from everyone else. So,
do the math here. 47 minus 29. You can keep talking. I'm going to do the math.
So I mean, the opposite of what the Cowboys were doing with Elliott. Granted, the Eagles don't have an Ezekiel Elliott running back, but they are creative. We've seen them use multiple running backs to be successful. We saw it last year with Ajayi. We also saw it with LeGarrette Blount. We saw it with multiple running backs. And this year, it hasn't been the same. It just something else is different. And right now, it's basically all in that passing game to kind of lead this team to wins. And, Carson Wentz still coming back from recovering from an injury, and he doesn't look all the way back yet. He doesn't.
True. And like I said, the math, if you take away that 29-yard run by Adams, he only has 18 yards.
Yes.
So, really, the stats are very kind to him in this. That 129-yard run really saved him in the stat column. But the bottom line is Zach Ertz was the key focal point in that win, or the loss for the Eagles. Like, he did his best at all he could. 14 receptions, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns. Was thrown to 16 times. So he was thrown to, he only missed 2 passes, and he was defended pretty hard at those 2 passes when you looked at it. But honestly, like, even in like the red zone, or like they could be at the 25 on a touchback, they were throwing it to Ertz every single drive. Every single, like, for every time there was a chain moved, every time first down played, it was usually a pass to Ertz.
Yeah, he had 16 targets on 43 pass attempts. So, yeah, basically more than a third of the time he's being looked at.
And there were sometimes like long bombs to him, and he was like going out deep, but a lot of it was kind of small slant plays that just at 10-yard slants that got up first downs. And it was just like, get on the ball, get on the ball, get on the ball.
And it worked. You could actually look at the numbers and say they should have went to him more, because they targeted him 16 times, 14 completions. That is a great success rate for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean,
but again, like, you got to look at it like small, short pass plays were also a factor in that too.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
But absolutely, you don't want the tight end to go deep all the time. There's only very few tight ends in history that can speed up to go deep. But Ertz is just a big, bulky guy, and you just want to get him the ball so he runs over some corners. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of mismatches. The Cowboys were guarding him with some corners, and I don't know why you're having a corner guard him, because the size advantage is too much in Ertz's favor for that. But the Cowboys hung on and won this game 27-20. Let's move on to the other game, shall we?
I was a little surprised. Yeah, before we do that, I was a little surprised that Tate wasn't more of a factor. 4 targets. I know he just got traded, but it seemed like I thought he was going to be used more, but he wasn't. So non-factor.
Yeah, 2 receptions, 19 yards. I mean, he just got on the team, so let's wait a week so he gets used to the playbook. That's all I have to say about that. One of the most surprising games this week was the Titans blowing out the New England Patriots 34-10.
Yes.
Corey Davis with a beautiful, while getting interfered in that pass interference call, touchdown. Do you see that play?
I did.
He was already like on the ground as he caught the ball. It was awesome looking.
It's nice to see him do well, because he's an incredible talent. They drafted him in the top 5, and that offense has struggled, but it was nice to see them utilize him. And he had another big game. Remember last year in the playoffs against the Patriots, he scored against them twice. He had 2 touchdowns in that playoff game, so he does it again against New England.
Yeah, right. And Dion Lewis had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder after this game. 28 attempts for 57 yards. Didn't have a passing touchdown or a rushing touchdown, but he still played an influence in this game. And his interview afterwards really showed, like, he said they were being cheap on him, which kind of makes sense. But bottom line is, he got his revenge. Derrick Henry had 2 touchdowns himself. Derrick Henry had a lot of rushes, and he had a breakout 14-yard run that was kind of cool looking, but he was kind of struggling, all things considered, with 11 attempts. He was getting stopped a lot, and that really shows his limitations when it comes to like the running game. Like Derrick Henry is a Heisman Trophy winner, true, but he seems very limited in the NFL.
Yeah, he's just not a well-rounded running back, so he'll have games like this where he has 2 touchdowns, but he'll have a lot of games where he has 8 carries.
Do you
for
think the
35
Patriots
yards.
should have kept Deion Lewis or try to re-sign him any way they could?
I think that they made the right decision of letting him go. He's a good player, but I like that they have right now they have Sony Michel and James White, who cost a lot less together than one Deion Lewis. So
Yeah.
I think
but
from the
just think
business
Deion Lewis is
standpoint, they
better.
did right.
Deion Lewis is better than James White, in my opinion. What about yours?
Possibly, but James White is maybe the best passing running back in the NFL. So it's hard.
Once his contract's up, he's going to be just as much as Deion Lewis.
Yeah, maybe, and then the Patriots will have another running back take his spot.
Yeah,
they'll just turn him out.
Are they ever going to slow down? It feels like they're never going to slow down. Or is it like when Belichick's gone, they're going to start slowing down?
See, the thing is, it's Brady, right? Like, James White is so good because Tom Brady's his quarterback. I mean, that's
so you're saying when Tom Brady's gone, then it hits down.
Then a lot of things change. Then guys like James White are looked at like Theo Riddick, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's the quarterback. They know how to utilize the players on their team effectively. James White, Josh Gordon, Gronkowski, Edelman, they all bring something to the table, and Belichick and Brady are very good at getting the most out of those players in various ways. So
Yeah, but obviously the player of the game is Corey Davis in this game. 7 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Like, he's only had 2 touchdowns this season, but he's been playing relatively well, all things considered. He's always been a go-to receiver for Mariota. He just sometimes doesn't get those receptions and doesn't get those touchdowns.
the problem is their passing offense has been so inconsistent. So
do you blame Mariota for that, or do you blame the receiving corps?
Yeah, Mariota's been hurt a lot too, so it sounds like, like it seems like he's a different player when he's not on the injury report, which he is constantly on the injury report.
So are you okay? Let me ask you this: when the season ends, should the Titans look for a quarterback in the free agent market?
I think the next 7 games will tell us if they need to or not. If Mariota continues to play like he did yesterday, then I think you stay with what you have. But if they struggle, because let's remember, the Titans are, they've won a couple games here in a row, and they just have an impressive win against the Patriots. But there's been some games this year where it looked like Mariota wasn't the guy, and he's also been hurt a couple games. So I think his we'll see. We'll here in the last 7 games, we'll know more about that.
Yeah, and another shocking game, a shocking blowout, not because of the players, not because of the teams, but who scored. And that's the Buffalo Bills, 41 points this game against the New York Jets. Matt Barkley, his first game starting for the Buffalo Bills, Nathan Peterman was benched for reasons of interceptions. And
Plenty of reasons.
it's mainly the interceptions. But bottom line is, Matt Barkley had 232 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. Yes, 15 of 25 doesn't sound the best, doesn't sound too good, but he didn't throw any interceptions, and that was their key problem. And that really helped LaShawn McCoy get those huge running attempts, 26 attempts, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it shows that if you don't turn the ball over, this team can be good.
Yeah, very shocking result as we see a quarterback that hasn't played in 2 years come in and light up a Jets defense that's not bad at all.
Yeah,
not a bad defense
not a
at all.
slacking defense in the slightest.
But it was absolutely surprising. I mean, it's one thing to not turn the ball over, but Barkley actually made some plays yesterday, and he threw a touchdown pass to their offensive lineman. Their left tackle scored a touchdown yesterday, which is pretty funny. But McCoy had a good game. I was really, honestly, very disappointed in the Jets' approach. I thought they were flat. They had 1 yard of total offense in the first quarter.
1 yard. How can that happen?
I just think, I'm not sure if Todd Bowles will have a job after this season, but they're on a bye week now. And that's
a much-needed bye week.
But it's interesting because bye weeks are a lot of times when coaches get fired.
I got a question I need to ask you. Since Josh McCown had this very rough game, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, 135 yards, horrible. Do you think Sam Darnold still would you say, oh yeah, he's better than Josh McCown? And Josh McCown's been his mentor. Do you think he's the right mentor for him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. necessarily think that it was Josh McCown's fault yesterday. It was a collective effort. I mean, the Bills don't score points. The Jets' defense gave up a ton of points. The Bills' defense is pretty good. I think we can both agree on that. The Bills' defense has definitely not been the reason why that team has been bad this year. Their defense is always tough. They played the Patriots tough a couple weeks ago, but they couldn't score any points, so they lose, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, obviously McCown is a decent backup quarterback. He's one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. There's not too many ones that are competent, and he seems to be one. So,
all right, we're going to take a short break. Actually, when we get back, we'll go quickly through the other games. Those are just some of the most notable games I thought of the week. Excuse me. Wow. But we'll talk mainly about the Saints and Bengals if we want to go into detail. But the other games we'll go really briefly on. Then we'll actually talk about the huge Jimmy Butler trade that went down this weekend, as well as Monday Night Football between the 49ers and the New York Giants. And we'll get right on that when we get back to you.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are talking about this week in the NFL. We've talked about the Cowboys and Eagles on Sunday night. We've talked about the Bills manhandling the Jets, and we talked about the Titans blowing out the Patriots. So let's just quickly go through the rest of the games, but I think we'll talk a little bit about the Saints and their 51-14 blowout of the Cincinnati Bengals. I got to ask you, are the Saints the best team in football?
I think it's a pretty strong argument that they are. They were my Super Bowl pick in week 1. They had a shocking loss to the Buccaneers, but since then, they've been as good as anybody in the league. So I say yes. They are the best team in the NFL.
And I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. They are the best team in the NFL. They just beat the undefeated Rams. I know the Bengals aren't, they are above 500 team, but they're nothing to really write home about. But they did really make a statement in this game.
35-7 at halftime. Unbelievable.
And this just seems to me that the New Orleans Saints are this, like, they lost their first game against Tampa Bay, and then they just been magnificent ever since.
They keep getting better and better.
Yeah. And all right, so we're gonna move on to the other games real quick. Bears beat the Lions 34-22. Bears still look like a contender for the NFC North. Still looking, in my opinion, they're going to win the division. Do you see the Vikings really taking up of this division? I know they had a bye week this week, so they're really they're kind of forgotten about this week. But do you see the Bears still holding on to this division?
I think the Vikings will end up winning the division. I think it starts this week on Sunday Night Football. Vikings and Bears. Bears are hosting the Vikings this weekend, this Sunday night. But in my opinion, I think although the Bears another impressive win yesterday, I'd still think that the Vikings have the edge.
Okay. Well, I'll go with this statement. Whoever wins that Sunday night game, I think is going to take the division overall. Because I think that's going to be a key game.
Absolutely. And Detroit, they look like they're just falling out of the sky.
They do have a first-year coach, and he's mainly a defensive-minded guy, too, so you can tell why the offense is still being kind of lackluster. But I'm still going to put the fact that give them some time. Give the coach a couple of years. This is they're in rebuilding. Everyone knows it. So Browns won a game.
Did.
The Browns beat the Atlanta Falcons 28-16, which sounds really unbelievable. Well, not unbelievable, but just surprising. Nick Chubb.
He had the longest touchdown of the year.
92 yards.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you could tell he was running out of gas at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, because 92 yards is a very long way.
Who wouldn't be running out of gas, right?
But that's as a run too. So it was just a 92-yard pass is one thing. Like that's still impressive, but that could also be like 50 yards of a pass and then run for the next 40. So it's like 40-yard run. But when it's a run, he's got to go through the line. He's got to go through everybody on that other team to get to that touchdown. And so 20 attempts, 176 yards, one touchdown. That 92 yards really speaks for itself. But it really shows that this Browns team maybe isn't as bad. Like, everyone thinks, the Cleveland Browns, they're bad. This team was just poorly coached by Hugh Jackson,
Absolutely. No? I don't think they're one of the worst teams. I mean, they might be in the bottom 10 because they're still a little bit young. Their quarterback is a rookie, but they're better than their record, and they have been for the last couple of years. But, I think the Hugh Jackson effect.
Here's a big question for you. Browns, in the next 5 years, do they make the playoffs?
5 years? Oh, yeah. I'll take that. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to say like in the next year because
I think they're trending in a better direction than the Ravens and the Bengals. And then
absolutely.
Roethlisberger.
They have a very young and talented
36, team. So in 3-4 years, I mean, I don't even think he'll be in.
Their division's wide open in the next.
Yeah, they have a good outlook for the next few years.
They have one of the youngest teams in the league.
Yeah, the Ravens looks like they'll be transitioning. Harbaugh and Marvin Lewis, I don't think will be coaching in a couple of years for either one of those respective teams. So.
And when you think about like the Georgia running backs, Nick Chubb and Tony Michel, you thought Michel got the better end of the deal, but maybe Chubb got his pretty good deal himself.
Yeah.
But both have been playing extremely well. Like, that just shows how good that Georgia team was and how upsetting that loss was in the national championship game. Sorry to bring it up, Georgia fans, but you had two amazing running backs.
They definitely had a great 1-2 punch.
Probably like that. I could put that 1-2. If that was in the NFL right now, that'd be one of the best in the league. Then let's go on to some other games. Chargers beat the Raiders 20-6. This is we're tanking period. I think there's no question about it for the Raiders.
Yeah, it's hard to take positives from this game, although John Gruden sounded very positive after the game, like it was his team played a great game. I don't know. It seems like the delusion is running really high with him at this time, but yeah.
The punter had 42 yards of rushing. That fake they did.
I mean, honestly, their season up to this date was summed up on the one play, and that was the last offensive play of the game for the Raiders. 4th down and 5. They run a screen pass, and Derek Carr throws the ball into the turf. Just spikes it into the turf on 4th down. Like, throw the ball up for grabs somewhere. Don't give up. And when you hear him say
it showed laziness.
Well, when you hear him
almost,
say through this like tough time in the organization, like I'm fighting every day to win and things like that. You've heard a lot of things from him in the last few days and the last couple of weeks. But to throw the ball just directly into the ground on a 4th down play to lose the game, I mean, man, I don't know what's going on with that team.
So their last two games, the 49ers and the Chargers, no touchdowns.
3 points.
That's unacceptable in the NFL.
It really is.
I don't care if you're tanking or something. No touchdowns in 2 games? Come on. And it does look like everyone kind of gave up. There was a report in the locker room that a Raider veteran, it was unconfirmed who it was at the time, but he says, I need to get the F out of here. Mm-hmm. And that's what as he's leaving the locker room, and I don't think that was him wanting just to leave the locker room. I think he wants to lead the team. No,
possibly. The Raiders are at Arizona this week. That's going to be an interesting game.
If they don't score touchdowns against the Cardinals either,
the Cardinals' defense is not that bad.
I know that's what I'm saying. And I'm saying, like, if they can't score on the 49ers, whose defense isn't bad either, they just have so much. They have to be on the field so often. Just like the Bills, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't see the Raiders scoring a touchdown.
We'll see if they can overcome that feat this week.
And then after that, they play the Ravens. They might not score a touchdown for another 2 weeks. But absolutely, it's bad for the Raiders. Like you know when a team's taking, you're like, all right, fine. But this seems like no one's trying. Like the Browns last year when they went 0-16, looked like some people just wanted one win. They were trying to get that one win. But now the Raiders have that one win, and they're just not even trying. There's no effort.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but just come on now. You gotta more discipline.
Yeah, it's a lost season.
Yeah. Colts beat the Jaguars 29-26. Talk about a lost season. The Jaguars lost season.
That was
absolutely.
A big game.
Yes, AFC title appearance last year, and now
we talked about it. It was a elimination game.
Yeah.
Like it's the Colts still have a breathing chance, and
Blake Bortles had a great game. 26 for 38 for 320 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. Moncrief had that long run against his former team, that long catch and run, and he basically outrun a bunch of guys that were like 5-6 years his younger, or his elder. How does that go?
Yes,
something like that. 6 guys like 6 years younger than him, basically, and he was outrunning them. So I thought that was really impressive. His little his weird like hip movement dance at the end. I don't know what that was.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, we'll talk about touchdowns celebrations when we get to the Chiefs, but that main play by Moncrief was the highlight for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I think Andrew Luck deserves a lot of credit for this turnaround by the Colts.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns this game. Also, like Andrew Luck's been huge, and he's also being crazy and started running with the ball too.
We're seeing him do it with guys
and
like
scrambling.
Mack, Wilkins, Hines, Hilton.
Mack's been playing really well. I know
was a bust
29
in
yards,
Detroit, and all of a sudden he's a good tight end now. Andrew Luck is
talk about a turnaround.
Yeah, Andrew Luck is playing really, really, really well.
You know what surprised me? Adam Vinatieri missing a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
Because do you think this is his last year of the Hall of Famer? I'm thinking he's a future Hall of
He
Famer.
can probably still keep going.
I don't know. Missing his only field goal. I don't like when people miss field goals, especially the legends like him. Redskins still hold on to the NFC East with their win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 16-3. This seemed just like a defensive struggle throughout the entire game. Actually, I lied. Ryan Fitzpatrick again had 406 yards, but how do you have 400 yards passing but yet no touchdowns?
Yeah, they made some mistakes big time, especially in the red zone.
There was a mistake. There was an interception by the free safety Adams that was pretty crucial for the Buccaneers in trying to get the win.
They had a fumble and a pick inside the red zone. So
yes, Smith, a linebacker with a pick and a defensive end with a pick.
Yeah.
So that kind of shows you.
The Buccaneers moved the ball up and down the field, but they only got 3 points, which is crazy when you think about how efficiently they were actually moving up and down.
And Adrian Peterson got 19 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still gaining the ball a lot. I think he's going to stay in
this Redskins
Washington
team
for a good bit.
Has got to be the most head-scratching division leader at this point.
I wouldn't say that.
Really?
I would say they're playing pretty well. They're getting the job done. They're winning the division.
When you look at the other
opinion.
divisions, they're the one that's interesting.
It's a nice surprise. I like NFC East is always a nice surprise. Like who's going to win the division? You never really know totally.
Although
who's
the
going to win
Bears,
the division.
I guess, would be another one that you maybe unexpectedly leading the division.
Well, they've been playing really well though. Like Mitchell Trubisky's been on a roll. And we can get right on that. We did talk about them already, but we talked about Mitchell Trubisky still having a great year himself. But we can move on to the Chiefs and Cardinals. Cardinals lose again. They're 2-7, but the Chiefs come back and are 9-1 at 26-14 win. And Josh Rosen did have a okay game. I mean, 200 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. I mean, what can he do? David Johnson struggles still, 21 attempts for 98 yards and a touchdown, but that touchdown was kind of a small, short run, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But overall, the Chiefs are looking like a serious, there's no downhill for them.
They actually had an off game yesterday.
And they
won
played
by
well.
2 touchdowns, so I mean,
Tyreek Hill, his touchdown celebration was the vocal point in this win. He tried to do the Chad Johnson camera thing. He was trying to look at his teammates, and Doesn't really know how to work a camera, so stick with football, Tyreek.
He's working the camera doesn't utilize his foot speed, and he has a lot of that. So yeah, he should stick to football.
Even coming off that groin injury, he's still the fastest guy on the
lightning.
field. He's greased lightning.
Yeah.
Anyways, and there were two different defensemen with picks. Like this was all Chiefs, and I don't think there's any question they're winning the West in the AFC.
Yeah. The Chargers are right on their heels.
Yeah, but
Chargers
how?
only have one more loss.
I know. They have two losses themselves, but the Chiefs just look like they can't lose. Like they can't even lose if they tried.
Yeah. No, I think they're definitely looking like the class of that division, but the Chargers
I totally
have
see
one
the Chargers
loss, so it
making
could change quick.
Yeah, I totally see the Chargers making the playoffs also, but I just think the Chiefs are just the better team.
Yeah, we could see them on a collision course to play for the division. I mean, both teams. I think both teams are going to win at least 12 games at this point, so it could be a one win or one loss separating the two.
Yeah. All right, we're about to take a break, but I'm going to go to the last two games really quickly. Seahawks lose to the Los Angeles Rams 36-31, and this shows that loss, they kind of got over the loss. They almost lost this one, but Todd Gurley, 120 yards rushing, Brandon Cooks, 100 yards receiving. This team bounced back pretty well. I mean, the best you can bounce back from a loss is to win, no? I know they almost lost this game.
They were close,
but they
were. They've been slipping a little bit lately, and the notable thing that happened in this game is Cooper Kupp is lost for the year. It's confirmed torn ACL.
Yeah, ACL. Yeah, that's too
That's
bad.
a
That's
big
a huge
blow
loss.
because he's
for
a
them.
red zone guy for the Rams. Like other than Gurley, he's the receiver that usually gets a lot of those targets.
Yes, so it's very bad. But last game of the week, 31-12, the Packers over the Dolphins. 31-12. That's just Brock Osweiler, the Broctagon, as you like to call him. Not as Broctagony as you.
Not
want,
Brocktober anymore, so he lost.
So there's no Brock Vember.
There isn't, not to my knowledge.
What about Raj Vember?
That's probably a thing.
No.
Seems like Aaron Rodgers gets better as the season goes on. So I think that's real.
Who's the best quarterback in November? That's the question. But we are going to take a break. When we get back to you, we will be talking about the NBA, most notably the trade to the from the Timberwolves and 76ers that Jimmy Butler is no longer a Timberwolf. He got his trade. He's going to Philadelphia, and we will talk about that in detail when we return.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are finished up with the NFL this week. We're going to talk about Monday Night Football in the next segment. But this segment, we have got to talk about the National Basketball Association. We have a trade. Jimmy Butler has finally been traded to another team. What he's asked for so long, and he's finally got it. Instead of saying yes to 4 first-round picks to the Rockets, they have accepted a trade to the Philadelphia 76ers as Butler and Jimmy Patton both go to the Sixers in exchange for a future second-round pick and 3 players. You want to name those 3 players for me?
So I know 2 of them, Saric and Covington.
Yes.
Who's
and
the third one?
It's Jared Bayless and a future second-round pick. So I would have taken the 4 first-round picks, in my opinion. Why would they go with this? I know they wanted players to help them win now. But do you think these 3 players and this future second-round pick can help them win right now?
Yeah, I think it will help them this season, but I do think it was a short-sighted approach. I would have preferred them to take 4 first-round picks and see what kind of talent you can acquire with those picks. But I understand they're looking to be a playoff team now. They do have Towns and Wiggins and some other young players, but yeah, I think Sarch and Covington. Bayless isn't really a factor here, but Covington and Sarch, in my opinion, are decent role players. Covington provides them with a little bit of wing defending. Sarch provides them with an outside shot to help kind of complement Karl Anthony Towns. So I understand what they're seeing in these players that they're getting in return. But are either of these guys going to be stars in this league? I don't think so. I would have rather taken the chance on those 4 first-round picks, like you said, over the course of 7 years. Because, yes, the Rockets are really good right now. Actually, they're mediocre right now, but you know what I mean. If down the road...
will be coming off the bench. We know that for certain. Sarch is definitely coming off the bench.
Maybe. He could start.
I think he's coming. He could, but I think this also is a huge... this is no doubt now Wiggins and Towns' team.
Yeah, I mean, it's Towns' team. It's not Wiggins'.
You want to put Wiggins in that lineup as well?
Karl Anthony Towns is... I mean, yes, those are their 2, I guess, priorities, you could say, but it's Karl Anthony Towns' team, and they got rid of Jimmy Butler because...
I still can't believe they didn't take that 4 first-round draft picks that the Rockets are offering. I know they would have been...
They want to win right now. Like that. I mean, that's literally it. Like,
and first-round picks wouldn't help with that? I don't understand.
I mean, it wouldn't help in the next couple of years, no.
I'm sorry. I just think that's a horrible decision making.
Because look, no, I agree with you, but it's not going to help them for a few years because look, if the Rockets are a good team this year, which we all expect them to end the season as a good team, that first round pick is a late pick, and then
it still helps.
And then they most likely don't have a first round pick next year because it would be 4 first round picks over 7 seasons, so you have to space them out. So, yeah, but I agree. They should have, in my opinion, they should have taken that trade and acquired 4 first-round picks because we're not sure that the Rockets are going to be a good team in 2 to 3 years. Chris Paul's older. They have an older team. James Harden, he's still one of the top players in the NBA right now, but who knows what he's going to be like in 3-4 years. So, yeah.
How long will that beard be in 3 to 4 years, my lord? But I do think that this trade benefits more the 76ers.
Yeah, I love it from their end. I mean, yeah, they give up 2 good players, but hey, they just added a star player. So they have
and
Embiid,
add Ben Simmons and Embiid,
Embiid, Simmons, and Jimmy Butler. It doesn't solve all their problems.
Fultz is still to be determined to me.
Which is crazy because I would have thought that the Sixers would have got Fultz in that trade, but they didn't. Or the Timberwolves, excuse me.
The Timberwolves didn't go for him.
Maybe
they saw him play because he has been struggling the last couple of games.
Right, but he's still a young piece, you know. Like, I'm surprised that the Sixers were able to hold on to him and do that trade. So, interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely I'm still concerned as pro 76ers. And this definitely puts them in like contention to even be the top seed in the East when what's all said and done.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see how good the Bucks and the Raptors have been playing. And, of course, the Celtics haven't even played at their best yet. So the Sixers needed to make a move to kind of stay in that conversation and not fall into the rest of the East conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And going over this trade, like this Jimmy Butler, just anything it adds a huge addition, like we were talking about. But also, like, now you have someone that can like go to toe to toe with Kyrie Irving. Now you have someone that can go to toe to toe with any of the big other like Kyrie or Kawhi Leonard or Kyle Lowry. You have someone that can go toe to toe with these other franchise players on these other teams.
Yeah, in
the East, and it just puts a whole new perspective on the East. The East is getting better and better. Like, we always look at the East being one of the insignificant conference compared to the West, but the East they have some good teams in the East, great teams.
Yeah, the East might be getting a little bit better, but with that said, I mean, the West is still pretty stacked when it comes to talent. Teams like the Lakers, the Rockets, the Thunder haven't even been playing well so far this season, and you got to expect those teams to be in the mix. So yes, the East has been getting better, but I still think there's a huge gap if we're discussing the two conferences.
Yes, absolutely. Mainly, I know the Western is just so much better because of how many deep teams there are. But let me ask you this. Do you see an Eastern Conference team like the 76ers, the Celtics, the Raptors, or the Bucks winning the NBA Finals?
Not if the Warriors are healthy. Nope, not at all. If the Warriors are not healthy, if something happens to one of their top 3 or
they
top 4
spontaneously
players,
combust,
then I could see, like, I think that you could argue that there's a couple teams in the East that are the next best teams in the league after the Warriors. I think that's a fair argument for sure, but I just think the Warriors are so much better.
You don't see the Warriors not making it to the finals?
No, unless something drastic happens to their health. That's literally all I can say.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen because we don't wish that upon anybody.
Right.
But you're right. This team, the Warriors, just...
I mean, who's beating the Warriors 4 times in a 7-game series when Curry, Durant, Draymond, and Klay Thompson are available? Oh, and then some guy named DeMarcus Cousins can, like, add to the starting 5. Some guy.
Wow, when you put it like that, it sounds almost unfair. Maybe
I mean, when you put it like that, then Simmons, Embiid, Butler is like, oh, that's it? Like, that's what it sounds like, right? Like,
I guess Fultz if you want to add him, but you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to ask you, should the NBA do something about these making of super teams?
There's nothing they can really do about it. I mean, the current rules in place make it more attractive for players to stay with their clubs and not leave in free agency. With the rules regarding free agency, the team that they're with can always offer them more money. And of course, we know NBA contracts are guaranteed for the most part. So if players are still willing to turn down money and go elsewhere, like LeBron, for example, turning down more money in Cleveland to go to Miami.
It wasn't that he still got $124 million. It wasn't like he lost anything.
Right, but I mean, the rules are in place to make it more attractive to stay, and if players are going to...
Especially with the Supermax, like you were saying.
Yeah, if players are just going to give that up, I mean, what can you do, really? What can you do? I don't know if the NBA can do anything other than take away the salary cap and let it just be a free-for-all, which I know the top teams...
I feel like that'll make it worse, no?
Could it be worse? Let me ask you that. I mean, the players are already going where they want anyways, right? That's where I'd start with. Could it be worse is a question that I ask myself.
Well, I mean, it can make it a lot worse. Like, if there's no salary cap, then there would be like these amazing teams all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. But the way that it's trending now, I mean, you look at... So, like LeBron pops up in LA, they go out and they get some different players. You see it. You saw it with Miami. I don't know if it can be drastically worse than it is now, but you're right. Absolutely, the teams in the big markets would have more money to spend naturally because they have bigger media contracts. But I don't know. I'd be interested in knowing someone else's opinion. I'm just not sure if it could be worse.
I always kind of wish, like, you know, the NBA, when you play NBA 2K, you can do a bunch of trades and just get, like, all the first-round picks. I wish someone could just try that in the real life to see how it works.
At least if you took away the salary cap, if you're a team like, let's say, Milwaukee Bucks, and, like, Giannis is going to be a free agent, you could offer him. I mean, I'm not saying that they would.
You know how much, like, the Warriors would offer him or the Lakers would offer him? It'd be like... Oh, here's the $300 million Bryce Harper's going to get. They just didn't have LA pay him, yeah.
Absolutely. But at the same time, if you're the Lakers and you're like, oh, Giannis, we'll give you $200 million to come here, at least the Bucks could be like, well, we'll give you $300 million to stay here.
But again, do they have that much? That's the
thing. It opens up a lot of variance. So there will be teams that will spend a lot of money. There will be teams that spend no money. So it will be... There will definitely be teams that struggle, and there will definitely be teams that take advantage of it. But I just wonder if the teams in the middle, will be better or worse for it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but we will see. One more thing to talk about in the NBA.
Carmelo
Anthony, many players and coaches on the Rockets staff have said that he is no longer going to play another game for the Rockets. Now the question is, are they going to release him? Are they going to trade him? That is still to be determined. Where do you see this happening with Carmelo? Is this career ending? Or is this?
I'm sure some team will sign him, but it's just, I don't know. He hasn't been a positive addition to a roster in years, and it's easy to see why. And you know what's weird is that almost everybody that watches the NBA, follows the NBA, knew that this marriage was going to be bad. It was a bad fit. The Rockets play fast.
I wouldn't even call this a marriage. It was like a relationship. It was like a 2-month relationship.
The Rockets play fast. Carmelo doesn't. Rockets don't shoot a lot of long twos. Carmelo does. Like it was destined to fail. So I'm not sure, but of course if he gets bought out or something like that, some team will pick him up. Probably a team in the East that's like needs another scorer or something like that. I don't know.
I can see some teams in the West also taking him, but I also see the fact that they were probably going to say, "Hey, we're going to trade him. Please offer us your best bids." And if nothing we like, we'll just release him and go for yourself.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if somebody gave them anything of value for Carmelo at this point. I would bet
they wish the NFL draft where they could draft give up a 7th round pick for him, but unfortunately they can't.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he will sign for a team that's in the playoff hunt, looking for a 7th or 8th guy off the bench. It's not going to be a starting role. He's going to want to be a starter. He's not getting one.
You know.
He doesn't want to play for a bad team, so that's where he would get a starting role. That's the thing.
I think now it doesn't matter now. I think he's going to want to play wherever he can.
Well, here's the thing. If they let him go, they still have to pay him, so then he can sign for the minimum and play and pick and choose where he goes. So it can be like a Tyson Chandler situation where the Suns are paying him, so he's getting paid. It doesn't matter about that. But now he can go try and win a championship or be an addition to a playoff roster.
But I think it's most likely going to be a trade, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what teams are in.
We will see more. We'll develop this story more as it progresses for Carmelo Anthony. But we'll take a short break. When we get back, we will talk about Monday Night Football between the 49ers and the Giants, and we'll get right on that when we return.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We just finished talking about the Jimmy Butler trade and Carmelo Anthony most likely no longer being a Rocket. Now we're going to go into the Monday Night Football matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Giants. San Francisco 49ers get their second primetime game in the many weeks, which is kind of odd, all things considered, of all the teams to get 2 primetime games in a row. But they face 2 one-win teams, by the way. Mm-hmm. So the 49ers coming off the win on Thursday night last week with Nick Mullins' debut against the Raiders. Now they are facing the New York Giants. And honestly, Nick Mullins has his work cut out for him again. So Nick Mullins is going to have he's facing 2 teams with a very mediocre defense at best. And I can see him having a great game. What do you think?
Yeah, and he gets about 10 days to prepare for the Giants. The Giants are coming off a bye, but Nick Mullins, not only does he get that first win under his belt, but he gets to have a little bit extra time to prepare. Unlike a normal week where you have about 6 days between games. Well, he gets a little bit longer, and I think that might help him. I'm not sure if too many people are going to be extremely interested in this matchup between a 1-win and a 2-win team, but hey, maybe we'll see some fireworks. There is some good offensive players on the field for the Giants. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham Jr. Do they have their own concerns? Absolutely. But hey, this game might actually have some points in it. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, Nick Mullins this is going to be good for him in the terms of if he plays really well the rest of the season, he could get a trade offer or a new contract from another team and be better off in the future. Like that's great for him. But bottom line is, Jimmy Garoppolo is coming back next season, and he's going to get the start. Nick Mullins, this is his chance to get a good, let's say, a good resume tape out there for other teams.
Sure. I mean, most likely the scenario is if he plays well over the course of these last couple games, then he'll remain as the backup quarterback for the 49ers. And, they might move on from Beathard as the other quarterback. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure even if he has a couple of good games, if anybody's running out to try and trade for Mullins or anything like that, considering he was an undrafted free agent, practice squad player. So, but
I'm saying if he finished off strong, I wouldn't be surprised if he got over like a conditional pick for him, something very little, maybe even in the 7th round, nothing.
Yeah, but under that scenario, it would be the 49ers there would be no reason to trade him if they know they have a competent
they have
backup.
C.J. Beathard.
Well, they replaced Beathard, so they don't really have C.J. Beathard, right? Like he lost his job pretty much to Nick Mullins, so
yeah. But looking at this game, this is the one statistic that really jumps at me is how many rushing yards they both get per game. Mm-hmm. The 49ers get 134.7 rushing yards a game, and the New York Giants with Saquon Barkley only get 77.
Mm-hmm.
That seems incredibly low to me for a team with a very talented running back who might be getting Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, it is, but it speaks to Kyle Shanahan being at least an offensive minded coach that can get the best out of his players, because we know the 49ers have been able to move the ball efficiently. When they're not turning the ball over, they're actually a pretty good offense. That's the problem, though, is that they turned the ball over too many times with Beathard at quarterback, and that led to the switch. And on the other side of the spectrum, the Giants' offensive line is so bad that Saquon Barkley is, having to make miracles almost every time he gets the ball. I mean, we've seen him with some impressive runs, but man, he is having to commit a lot of energy eluding defenders behind the line of scrimmage, and that doesn't bode well for, your offensive output, your rushing yardage output. So that's why the Giants have struggled.
Yes, and one of the main things for the Giants and Niners game is also the injury report. The Giants have no injured players at the moment on their injury report, but the 49ers have Reuben Foster, Pierre Garçon, and Jaquesi Tart are all out. Mm-hmm. And that is a huge damper on that team. Mm-hmm. A good safety, a good linebacker, and a very quality wide receiver all not playing this game. Mm-hmm. But against a team like the New York Giants, you're going to maybe think, we can not have these guys play, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you're at the time of year where you're not going to risk long-term injury for some of these players like Foster, Pierre Garçon. I mean, these players, they should be there next year. So, the way that the record is now, you don't want them hurting their long-term future, playing through injuries and things like that. But those three players will definitely be out for the Niners. For the Giants, you said it, they're a relatively healthy team, but even when they're healthy, who knows? The Niners are favored in this game, 3 points, so we'll see.
Yeah. And this game is actually 1 year exactly from today, 2017, of this same day. They played each other.
And that was
the Giants
first
and Niners.
win of the season for the Niners, if I remember
correctly. Yes,
correctly.
and it was a 31-21 win.
C.J. Beathard.
Yes.
Against...
That was the highlight of his rookie
against
season.
Eli, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's just funny how exactly 1 year later, they're playing again.
And both teams are pretty much in the same spot.
Yeah, but one team is looking more up than the other. Like the 49ers look like a team going nowhere before the Garoppolo trade happened. and this was before the Garoppolo trade occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And after that trade, I would say, and now looking at the next season with this, with they have so much room in the salary, I see the Niners looking more up than the New York Giants. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, whether or not you think Garoppolo is one of the better quarterbacks in the league or not, their quarterback situation is a lot better than what the Giants have. I mean, you have Eli, and then you have Lauletta as your backup, and we don't even know if he's a decent backup. He just had a running with the law. The Giants are going to have to draft a quarterback probably with their first pick, and maybe they'll draft a decent player, a decent quarterback, but yeah, you have to think that at this point, the 49ers are closer in being an ascending team than the Giants are, for sure.
Yes, of course. Let me just ask you this. Is it better for one team to lose this game rather than win?
You would think, based on draft order.
Technically, there are 7 games more left of the season, and technically, if the Rams lose out the rest of the games and the Niners win out the games, they'd be tied for the NFC West.
Technically.
So it's not at all impossible.
We'll see what happens. There are a couple other news and notes in the NFL. Brandon Marshall signed with the Saints.
Yes.
That's interesting.
He did. But before we get on that, I want to give you, what's your score for this game tonight?
I got 49ers winning this game 23-20.
23-20?
Yeah.
I'll go, you know what, since the Niners are averaging 23 points a game, the Giants are averaging 18 points a game, I am going to go, let's say, 28-24 49ers.
28-24? All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So what do you think about Brandon Marshall signing?
I think this was the replacement for Des Bryant, obviously.
We'll see.
And Brandon Marshall is not actually, in his 13 seasons in the NFL, has not made the playoffs once. Has not played in a postseason game.
Congrats, Brandon Marshall. You have now made the playoffs.
Well, not officially.
I'm calling it. I'm stopping the fight.
You're stopping the fight? Well, they are 8-1, and they haven't officially clinched because there's still 7 games left of the season. We still got a long ways to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know that the Saints could totally lose out. I can't even take that with a straight face. No way they're losing out the season. But yes, they most likely are taking their division. They're most likely getting the 1 or 2 seed. Almost a guarantee now. But now I see more the lines of, is this the right move to get an older wide receiver to complement Michael Thomas and to complement Alvin Kamara and to complement Marvin Ingram?
I mean, it's one of those things where Brandon Marshall and Des Bryant are very much the same player. So, same type of player, big-bodied, possession-type receiver who've lost a step at this stage of their career. Again, like the Des Bryant signing, I don't think this can hurt the Saints. I think it can only give them another option, especially in the red zone. It just gives them another wrinkle, but I don't know if it's going to move the needle at all. I don't think it necessarily makes them a better team or not, but it gives them an experienced receiver. We look at their depth chart. They have young receivers other than Michael Thomas, so it gives them a veteran.
Right, and I honestly still feel really bad for Des Bryant. He didn't really get any chance to prove himself. His second practice, last play of the day, and he tears his Achilles tendon. It's just a really unfair circumstances, all things considered. Mm-hmm. But we'll see how Brandon Marshall does with this new team. Honestly, with Drew Brees, he should be totally okay. Probably even better than he has been the last couple of years. But anything else you want to say?
Yeah, Jordy Nelson sounds like he might be retiring. That is the rumor right now. He might be retiring early before the season's over from the Raiders. And are you surprised?
A little, because it's just been it hasn't really been anything like any newsworthy. Like he was considering it before then. This just came out of the blue, and I kind of understand the situation though, but. Again, there's just his frustration with the Raiders and where they're going. He obviously doesn't feel welcome there, or he doesn't feel like this team's going anywhere.
Yeah. So Tomorrow is the deadline for Le'Veon Bell to report to the Steelers. If he doesn't, he will sit the season. Will he report, yes or no?
No. It looks like he's done for the whole year.
You don't think he'll show up and forfeit the rest of the money? I think it's about $7 million.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a bold move.
Yeah. Well, he's already lost millions upon millions upon millions upon
He's
millions.
lost about $9 million.
Yes, absolutely. And
it would be quite the bold move. Not sure I've seen that.
And overall, you just got to look at the fact that Le'Veon I think because how well James Conner's playing might play a role in this, in the fact that matter that he's not been playing. He's not going to play. But I will say, bottom line is, Le'Veon's not playing the rest of the season.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to add for our show today is college football. The top 4 remains in the top 4. They all won convincingly. Getting closer to that college football playoff, a big statement by the teams that are currently sitting in the top 4 playoff spots. So we'll see if that changes coming up, but it was a strong weekend for those 4 teams in college football.
Yes. And I think that's all for the time we have today.
Yes, join us tomorrow.
Yes, join us tomorrow for our football podcast, but also tune in today for our fantasy football and our football podcasts. And tomorrow we also are doing football again, but we'll also with basketball too.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot still to go on this week, and we will see you when we see you. Have a good day, everybody.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.